Yeah, say hi, say where you're from, and I'm just going to tell you about my story, really. Share some photos, share some the way I see things. And for those that don't know me, I haven't always been in a wheelchair. 25 years ago, tonight exactly 10:31, when I went swimming that night, when I walked along the top of the wall, I remember looking at my watch just before I dived in, and it said 10:31. So yeah, I remember the exact time, and I remember a lot about that night. It was a big night for me. But I thought I dug out some photographs and I thought I would share. There's me at Penn School when I was younger, with my big ears, which I still got. Oh, I must have been about 11 there, I think. And then doesn't seem to be working. Yes, that's again me. I won't say me on it. But yeah, picking up a trophy. I used to be perfectly normal. I used to ride BMXs. I used to race. I was semi-successful. And I got my motorbike at 17. I was a typical boy. If I could get in trouble, I'd get in trouble. No different than anybody else. And I used to always be accident prone. If you could fall off something or you could hurt yourself on something, I would, yeah, I would be the one to fall off. I would be the one to end up in hospital all the time. Oh, there's me at school. I will zoom in a bit and see if we can find me. Gone back. That was me when I was really young. Nothing ever goes to plan when you're live. That's me right at the back with the terrible haircut. My classmates at Penn. I'm still in contact with a lot of them, which is pretty cool. Thanks to Facebook. So, 18th birthday. That was a big long day. I remember falling out with everybody that day. It was a day that I didn't want to do anything, and my sister was, along with a few others, were throwing a party because she just turned 21 and she wanted me to help out, and I think she wanted me to put some cheese and pineapple on cocktail sticks. I wasn't going to have any of it. I had a tantrum and stormed off in town. I turned up a little worse for wear a few drinks later on. I think, if anything, that was later that night. They kicked me out in the snow and I wasn't wearing much. And I remember knocking on the door trying to get in that night. And then, we had a long summer, and then during that summer, it was like quite a lot of parties for me. It was a good summer. It was really hot. I remember digging up the front of David's, which is a friend of ours, a friend of his garden and all that, and putting a driving oil in. And it was one of those really, really hot summers. And then 1st of September, we went swimming that night, and it was a heated and lit up pool. We used to go up there most nights, and this particular night we went up there, and as most of you know, I dived into the deep end and hit the bottom hard, and I broke C5 in my neck. I was instantly paralysed. I had an experience that night that clearly changed my life completely, but it was something that it isn't until the last few years that I've understood. It was like this moment when I was lying on the bottom of the water, and while I was lying there waiting to be saved, waiting for someone to get me, everything faded away. All fears, everything else just disappeared, and I become the same as the water. I became the same as a swimming pool. It's really hard to explain because words really escape how it feels, because it feels everything and nothing all at the same time. And it isn't until I studied Buddhism and what it really is and what it means to be one and part of everything that I could understand it. And I'm still learning now. I don't fully understand it. But yeah, I was taken to hospital and I had this halo put on my head. And I suppose I should have said if anybody's squeamish, but there's no blood. This halo was put on my head to keep my neck straight. And there was 16 pound of weight tying off the end of it there. And every few weeks they would tighten that up. And my trachea, because I couldn't breathe. So first 3 months I couldn't talk. I communicated completely through just tutting. Like a 1 tut for yes and 2 tuts for no. And that was how I communicated for a few weeks. That was how I decided everything. And then when they did take out the tracheotomy, I could breathe, and then for the first time I could put air through my vocal cords and I could talk. This is me coming, it's a few years after I come home, this is, because I got Ben there. He was at Dogs for the Disabled. I was 23, 24 there, and he used to help me out around the house a lot. It was a cute dog. He's passed away now. It'd be about 23 now if he was still here. But yeah, he used to pick things up for me, put them on my lap and all kinds of things. The only things he wouldn't pick up and give me is any kind of food or anything like that. He would have that straight away. So I'll quickly go through a few photos. There's me. That's me and my daughter. She's now 19. And me and her again. She used to go on my foot plates all the time. And I can remember one day she begged and begged to go in town with me. And she got on my foot plates and we went in town. She fell asleep just leaving the house. And we went all the way around town and came all the way home again. And she woke up as we come in the door. So, oh, can I go in town now? Like, you've been in town for the past 2 hours and you slept the whole time. You know, she's 19 now, so she's grown up. There she is again. This photo is, I went to do a challenge in 2005 to go from John O'Groats to Land's End in the UK, which is about 900 miles, about 1,500 kilometres. And it was to raise money for charity. And I wanted to do it on my electric wheelchair. So I was doing like 40, 50 miles a day, 8 hours a day. But we raised money by selling wristbands. So this is when I visited the local school to sell them. This was the launch of it, the launch of my challenge. There's several people there. I won't go through them all, but family. My local member of parliament was there and the sponsors. Me at John O'Groats, this is before I set off. And it was cold. We were doing it in August. I chose August because I thought it would be warm. Like, people said to me, nah, Scotland will be cold. Scotland will be really cold. God, they were right. It was literally so freezing. And one of the worst things about Scotland, apart from the fact that Scotland's amazing, you know, the sights and there's not one stretch of road in Scotland that hasn't got this amazing scenery next to it. But they have these things called midges, I think they're called. And they literally eat you alive. Only on certain days. so don't be put off for going to Scotland. But on one particular day, they were just, oh, they were eating me alive. And we used to have these radios between me and the vehicle. And I couldn't speak back to the radio because I couldn't press the button on it. But I can remember the radio turning, because every now and again I would, I'll just show you, I'll come back to that. Every now and again I would like start patting myself down and going like mental because they just drive me insane. And over the radio it said, there's a pub coming up. Make sure you don't do it while you go past. So why? And they said, because you look crazy. And yeah, it was mental. They're just literally biting you all day long. So yeah. I'll show you a few more photographs of that. I think that was on day one. Because we were all enthusiastic on day one. And it was like out the blocks, you know, like it is. We were raring to go, let's go. And then a few days in, and it was tiring. It was a long slog. That was Lancaster, I think, when it was raining badly. I've never known rain to just literally fill the streets instantly. It was like 1 minute there was no rain, the next minute you were going through rivers. I think that's a similar day. You see how cold I was. There's Darren there in shorts because he was riding his bike. And I was literally dying of the cold. It was freezing. I had to wrap my legs up. I think I was wearing long johns and a hat on. And this was August, the summer in the UK. You know, this is a summer holiday when the kids are off school. And yeah, I was cold. A year later, I'd done my Around Cornwall challenge, 250 miles around the coast of Cornwall. That was us setting off. Not me in the chicken suit. That's Kenny in the chicken suit. But yeah, I towed that trailer all the way around. Me setting off. And last couple of the photos before I carry on, really. That's Ben again. I said about him earlier, he was the dog that used to help me out around the house and do a lot for me. Pick up stuff and open doors and bring me washing and things like that. Not always the washing that I wanted. He used to bring me some weird things. Other people's washing. And I couldn't do this without including Little Bounty. He's my current dog at the moment. And Bounty on a road trip with his friend Millie. Yeah. Yeah, that's the end of the photos. But I just wanted to come live and tell you a bit about my story. And significantly, 25 years is a long time. And I can remember being in the spinal unit. And I was laying there on bed rest because I spent about 6 months in bed first. I can remember lying there and my TV started changing channel. And at first I called the nurses and said there's something wrong, this is highly annoying. And I could barely move my arms at the time because my neck was still swollen. And nurses come over and joked with me, thought that, it's a ghost, don't worry about it. And then it kept happening for about 4 or 5 hours. And then the guy next to me laughed and admitted it was him. He's a guy called Richard, and I don't know him now. I don't know where he's to. I got to know him and on the spinal unit temporarily, and he was the same as me. He was a C5 complete. He had his arms, and he gave me a huge and massive amount of hope, because at that point I realized I could one day turn the TV over. And that is really huge. When it comes down to lying in bed, don't think you can do anything. I suddenly had this thing, wow. So when I'm a little better and I can sit up in bed, I can turn the TV over. That was a pretty big thing. And then I got to know him, and he said to me, he said, yeah, I've been paralyzed 21 years. I remember thinking, crap, you've been in a wheelchair 21 years. That to me then sounded like something crazy. Totally bizarre to me. And I remember joking with him about it, thinking, I'll never get there. I'll never be there. And part of me was, well, I probably won't survive that long. I'll probably get ill and something will happen. Or secondly, they'll come up with something that will repair us and I won't have to be paralyzed anymore. Well, clearly the first didn't happen. And the second was they're still working on it majorly. Because it's really not that simple. But now I'm 25 years post breaking my neck. And just like normal life, my life's had ups and downs. My life's had really good times and bad times. And just before I go on about my life a little bit, there was one thing that really stands out to me about when I was in hospital in the first few weeks. When I was flown to Salisbury, which is about 200 miles away from where I lived, I was then transferred after quite a rough night. That's why I've got a little hole there, because I was refusing to have my trachea put in. When a consultant comes and says to you, you're poorly and we need to put a tube in your throat, I say, well, what does that involve? Well, we're going to cut your throat. You kind of say no. Well, at that point, my parents were saying, no, if you need to do it, do it. And they said, well, we can't because he's 18. So they were in communication with a judge to try to overrule me, to say, look, he's really poorly. And in the end, I can remember the consultant coming over and saying, look, Stevie, you don't know how poorly you are. You're really poorly. And I'd left it that long that they started to do it on the spinal unit there and then in the bed. And it was a rough night. I argued, I moved around enough that made their life difficult, so they had to take me to theatre. It worked out okay, so no real bad story. But I ended up in intensive care for 2 weeks, where my body adjusted to the new way of living, the new habits of breathing, and I was on a CPAP machine. And I remember being on this CPAP machine. There's two things I really remember about the intensive care. And that is the CPAP machine enabled me to have a rest. So I could breathe myself. And I can remember when I was really tired, I could stop breathing. I could just lie there and just not breathe. And those little moments of I could just rest, it was just wonderful. And the other thing is I couldn't eat or drink anything for about 10 days. But the nurses would give me these little lemon swabs and put them around my lips, keep my lips moist. And they were the most amazing things in the world. When you're lying on bed and you're really poorly, you've got nothing to really focus on, just getting those lemon swabs absolutely meant the world to me. They were just, I don't know how, it's some kind of heaven on earth. It was just wow. And I couldn't have them constantly. It was only like once every hour. And I look forward to having those. Yeah, that was one of the big things I remember. There's so many stuff from the spinal unit. It was an amazing place to be. It was Salisbury Hospital, the Duke of Cornwall spinal unit. And it wasn't like a hospital. It was more like it was a hospital. The acute people would be next to the rehab people. So I remember going out and getting drunk one night with the nurses. And the nurses didn't get drunk, apart from the ones that weren't working. I remember coming back and the spinal unit was quiet. There was nobody awake. They were pushing me in. I was in a manual chair at the time. And I looked up and said to Dominic, the sister at the time, I said, I'm falling. No one really listened. And because I was a bit drunk, I didn't really care. I said, no, seriously, I'm falling out of my chair. And no one was like, I fell just to the left, right on top of my head. And I remember looking up and saying, that's typical. The only bit of my body I can feel when I happen to fall on it. It was just, it was such a funny evening. It was brilliant. But that was the spine unit. It was a brilliant way of rehabbing and getting us introduced to life, our new way, and that we could have a life. You know, we can go home and get drunk and have fun and live normally. So it was a really important time for me and all the nurses and everybody. So yeah, briefly, I haven't looked at the comments at all, been rambling on. Hi Sally, hi Michaela, Maria and Loretto. Yeah, good evening to you all. Hi. This was a spur of the moment thing because it's 25 years exactly. It's weird though, because I don't look at it as a bad anniversary. I look at it as something that happened that might have saved me from something worse. I don't know. I don't know what the rest of my life would have been. And when we look back, would I change it? Well, no, because I don't know what my alternative would have been like. And we often look at when something goes wrong, we really look at it through these rose-tinted glasses and think, you know, everything would have turned out better. You would have been a wonderful family man. You'd have had a business. You'd have been very successful. Bollocks, how do you know that? I could have been a right a-hole. I could have been a right idiot. Well, I was for many years anyway. But that's a whole different story. We just don't know how the alternate is going to work out. And I didn't become a saint overnight. I'm not a saint now. And, you know, my whole life just has never really gone to plan, even after my accident. I've been bankrupt. I had a business fall down. I had many things go wrong, quite a few heartaches and things like that. But it's okay because it's normal life. And there's one thing I've learned about life, and that is A, it doesn't go to plan. Okay, a few things I've learned. A, it doesn't go to plan, and that's okay. And B, I forgot what B was now. It doesn't go to plan. And B, everything's temporary. No matter what bad times happen, no matter what you go through, it's temporary. It does move on. There is always a time for laughter again. There's always that opportunity to live and become aware and become happy again. You know, just put one foot in front of the other and just keep going. And that's what we can do. And the happy people don't not have bad times. They have shit times too. But the happy people look at the end game, look at the coming out the other side, and they keep going. It's not a big secret to why I'm enthusiastic. And people say, "Oh, you're so positive." I'm positive because I've realised things are temporary. I get lonely. I sometimes feel depressed. I sometimes get anxious. I sometimes have wonderful, blissful thoughts. And I learned nothing stays. Everything moves on. And that's okay. Because it means we can enjoy both times. Because when we're having a shit time, we know it's temporary. So we can go, okay, this is temporary. Okay. Just breathe. Take another breath. And when we have the good times, we can say, instead of saying, oh my God, I don't want it to be over, because it's going to be, we can say, let's enjoy it. And that's the way I see life, and that's why I'm happy. When people used to ask me, why are you so happy? because life's good. To be alive, to be aware is everything. You know, it's opportunity. It's just awareness that, wow. So, has anybody got any questions or anything to finish on? Or, yeah, 25 years is just like that, gone. It's amazing how fast it goes. And look at how technology has changed. When I broke my neck, I can remember phoning BT, which is our local telecoms provider, because the mobile phones started coming out then, and this great big brick of a mobile phone that you literally had to drag around a battery pack with you or plug it into a car, and it only worked in certain areas. I can remember phoning them and saying, can I have one of those phones? And they said, well, yeah, but it's going to cost you like £1,200 and about £300 per month, which in America that'd be like $1,800 and about $500 per month. And look at us now with iPads and music that I don't have to change a CD. I can listen to any CD in the world virtually. My computer, you know, mobiles. My life is so much easier today, just the same as everybody else's. But we often, so often, just focus on the bad that comes with it instead of the good that comes with it. You know, everything always brings in both. So yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for this page. Thanks for likes and shares. Really appreciate it. I love doing it. I'm going to share this on Twitter, share this on thing, and it's been a good 25 years. It's been a good learning curve. Here's to another 25, hopefully. God, how old will I be then? Old. I'll be old and wrinkled. Thanks guys, I love you. Appreciate life. Everything's temporary, even this. Thank you. Take care.